wait on that. We'll get into this other one first, but this next topic. So welcome back to the stream. Welcome back to another video. This next topic, I wanted to give some sort of a warning to people that bought last year. And so my tagline is, I guess, do this now if you bought a Tesla last year at a higher price. This is probably something key that I feel like no one is actually talking about the higher prices. Everybody, and we're all talking about, getting some sort of credit or something like that. But I want to make sure that all of you are covered, to make sure if you bought a Tesla that last year, if something were to happen, I want to make sure that you're covered with your car. So we're going to get into it. But before we get into it, if you're just joining in, my name is Dennis. I love talking about Tesla hacking, as I like to call it, but basically just getting the best deal on your Tesla at the best possible price, or just getting really good financing on your Tesla. So if you're interested in any of that, please hit that subscribe. And today's video is actually sponsored by my Patreon link down below in the description, but more on that later. And I will get to all comments and chats to answer any of your questions during these live streams. I think that's like the added benefit to these live streams. We'll get to that. But let's get into it. So if you bought a Tesla Model 3 or Model Y or even Model S or X last year at new retail price, at those elevated prices, you absolutely need to do this now. And what I mean by do this now is you need to check your insurance coverages to make sure you have gap coverage onto it, because worst case scenario, if you were to get into some sort of accident and the thing is, Teslas, from what I've seen, they total out a lot easier than other cars because of the battery at the bottom. If there's any sort of slight damage under the undercarriage, body shops, and they just don't even want to mess with it, because it's just too much liability to try and mess with that. And batteries are expensive. Like for some reason, the number of like $13,000 to $20,000 for a battery replacement comes to mind, but who knows on that. So you need to make sure that your coverages are set. So call your insurance companies, call your financing companies. I guess it's like a pretty serious topic, so sorry for throwing that in there. But this is the reason why. So if your car gets totaled, this is just something I Googled quickly. You need to understand that your insurance only pays the actual cash value of your car to you, to basically try and make you whole. So if you finance an over an amount, so let's say usually banks will allow you to finance 100 to 120% of the MSRP. So if you finance the car that was like, let's say worst case scenario, you bought a Model Y Performance, right? Let's say you bought a Model Y Performance, it was $70,000. You were able to get 120% financing. So $77,000, 110, 108, whatever. Let's say it was like, you put 0 down, or maybe you put 10% down, give or take. And let me just pull up actual cash value, or let's see, let me pull up MMR, where the auction values is try and give you some insight of what type of value they might actually give you. But so when let's say you have a balance on a 2022 Tesla Model Y Performance, and it's $75,000. Do you put like a couple of $1,000s down, and you're financing over 72 months? Let's say, next month something happens, worst case scenario, like of course, knock on wood. And this is the values of what that vehicle is right now. Of course, we all know that Tesla dropped the price significantly over the past couple of weeks ago. And so of a 2022 Tesla Model Y Performance, the wholesale value is anywhere from $50,000 to $54,000. Of course, that's when you negotiate back and forth with your insurance companies. You might even have to hire a lawyer. But actual cash value could be, slightly higher than that. Maybe retail value of like 57, 58, 59. But if you paid $75,000, or if you have a loan for $75,000, your insurance is not, that's where you have to make sure your coverages for your insurance are going to cover all the way near that. And that's where gap comes into play. Certain gap rules will allow you to they'll cover up to 120%. So, there could be a lot of different variables here, but my PSA is, if you bought last year, if you paid a higher price than what it is now, that's kind of the scary thing with Tesla just dropping prices like this overnight, is they can essentially affect the value of cars that they sold in the past. But call your insurance, call your financing companies, and make sure that you are covered, just in the case of, knock on wood, that something were to happen, and you're safe. Because the worst case scenario is you owe $75,000. car's totaled out for just maybe a small fender bender, but small fender bender, but it hit the battery, and then insurance is only going to pay you out 60. So now you're stuck with a $15,000 debt that you can't replace and any sort of stuff. Of course, like if someone hits you, then that could be a different story, but then you got to make sure that person has the right coverages. There could be a whole variety of mess here. So that's my PSA. Just make sure to call your insurance companies, make sure to call your finance companies, because you can actually buy gap from your finance company, or you could buy gap from your insurance company. So there's different ways to go about it, but of course there's fine print. Some gap only covers up to 110, 120. There's so many different ways this could go. So that's my PSA. Do this now if you bought a Tesla last year at the higher prices. If you bought one this year, I mean, there's always an argument for gap at the end of the day, especially if you put the minimum down, like $1,000-$2,000 down, because gap is relatively inexpensive. Like I think last time I bought gap, it was like $600 for the 2 to 3 year coverage. So that's a small price to pay, knock on wood, for something to happen. So that's my recommendation. Hopefully that makes sense, because the worst that could happen, I want to look out for all of you, that's for sure. And if you don't agree with the price decreases and how you feel Tesla should do something, we do have this change.org petition out there. Definitely sign out, because I really feel like Tesla should do something for owners that paid a higher price last year, whether it's giving full self-driving, supercharging, a discount on enhanced autopilot, something. And shout out to the 6,900 people that have signed so far. We're almost at 7,000, almost at this next goal of 7,500. But that definitely for sure, check it out. It's change.org/Tesla refund. Share it. Go on Twitter. I share it on Twitter every other day. Facebook groups everywhere that if you agree that Tesla should do something. That's for sure. Let me know if you have gone to your insurance or your financing companies and talked about getting gap. Let me know like how much you're paying for it, because it should cost anywhere from $500 to $1,000, and no more than that, because then you have to really see if the math makes sense. If they're charging like $5,000, then you might as well just like self-insure, or it depends on the threshold, right? But hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully you'll look at your numbers and see what makes sense to you. And hopefully we're all covered at the end of the day. But we're going to jump into some of the comments and some of the questions. But before we get into that, this video is actually sponsored by my Patreon link. Down below in the description, there's a Patreon link where you can support the channel, and there's a variety of benefits. So definitely check it out. All right. Mercedes is offering 2-day test drives on their EVs. Whoa, maybe I should go to because I do want to check out that EQS. It looks cool. It looks cool for sure. Roadster booking seems to be open now. Oh, you don't say. Let's go take a look at where you got to go to, like here, right? I think it was always open though, right? You could put like $50,000 or $150,000, $5,000. Oh, okay. Oh, 5,000, then I think give us another 45,000. I think this was always open, but not sure. Should I get a Tesla if I live in an apartment building without charging options? Tough. Download this app called Plug Share. It's a crowdsourced application that allows you to see all the free chargers, paid chargers, all that stuff around you, so you can see what's available around you at that's your charging infrastructure. What's the new car you got? Well, it's a Tesla. That's for sure. Yeah, my brother-in-law has a Bolt EUV. Yeah, I mean, you cannot beat the price of what a Bolt is. And, if I, was in a situation where I just need a cheap daily driver, I would still buy a Tesla Model 3. Wow, I did not know that. A house. Exactly. Dennis should get his hands on a Rivian and do a review for us. I like that idea. And I do have a Rivian on order, but I'm not that special to get bumped up like some other people out there. But it's out there. It's in the queue. I mean, maybe 2024.